Hey everybody, how you doing today? This is going to be a really short video on my 7 tips on how to instantly get better at PvP in Destiny 2. Jumping into the first tip I'm going to have, this is going to be something that if you're a seasoned Destiny player may be a little obvious, but if not, this is something that is just going to extremely help your game right away. And it's headshots. If you're not going for headshots with every single engagement that you're in, you are already putting yourself at just a huge disadvantage that you don't need to be putting yourself in. So everything in Destiny 2 is about headshots. They do almost double the damage, and you're basically not ever in a fair fight if you're not always going for headshots with the other team. So sorry if that was a little bit of an obvious first tip, but if someone already didn't know that, that is first and foremost the number one thing that you need to be doing in PvP. Okay, now for the second tip, knowing the map. Knowing the map is so helpful and so important in Destiny 2. Knowing every single engagement possibility that is going to happen in Destiny 2 is so important, especially now that we can have two of what were just primary weapons in primary and secondary, meaning that you can have a hand cannon and scout rifle, meaning you can switch between the two for short to long range weaponry for almost any engagement you have. It is so important to be able to know the map and know the different engagement distances that you're going to come up against, so that way whenever you go into a fight, turn a corner, you'll always have the right weapon out for the right situation that you might find yourself in. So meaning if you're on a map and you know around this corner there's a really long hallway, you might want to switch out from a shorter range weapon into a longer range weapon. So like a hand cannon or an auto rifle are much better for shorter ranged engagements. Also sidearms are better for shorter engagements. So if you're running into this corridor that's really long, you might want to switch to a pulse rifle or a scout rifle, so that way you have the upper hand in those longer engagements. And the only way to really get better at this, I would say, is to just play the maps. So the first couple times you play some of the new maps, it really might be hard to understand where you are. You might get caught off guard a lot of the times. That's okay. It's just going to be something that is going to come with you knowing this map. If you don't like that and you want to try to figure out another way, you can look up map floor plans online. But really, I think the best way to learn is just to go in it and figure the map out for yourself. Tip number 3, move as a team. So if you're with a fire team with your friends, make sure you all stick together at all times. It really does help all your engagements, and it really helps if you are in a objective orientated game mode where you want to capture points. When you move as a team, it just makes it so much easier. Everyone can team shot people, and especially if the other team isn't working together, you just destroy the other team if you're all working together. Strength comes in numbers, obviously. So tip number 3, even if it's just you and one other friend and you two run together, it's just going to help your chances of surviving and getting those kills and picking up those objectives so much more. So tip number 3, make sure you always try to move as a team, fire team, stick with your friends. Tip number 4, don't be afraid to disengage. So if you are in a firefight and you know you're on the losing end of the battle in Destiny 2, time to kill is a lot slower, so you have a lot more time to realize when you're on the losing end of a battle. Don't be afraid to disengage, back off if you can, get behind a corner, try to let your health regenerate, try to run back to your teammates. Whatever it is you need to do, if you find yourself on that losing end of the battle, don't be afraid to back off, try to regather yourself and finish off the opposing player. You're not doing yourself any favors with pride if you're just gonna keep getting yourself into battles and losing them and not wanting to back off and regain yourself and probably even end up winning. Because most of the time what I found is people don't like it when you back off of that, when you back off of the fight, and you'll be able to run around a corner and they will usually just be sprinting around the corner and you'll just be sitting there waiting for them, and there you go, and you got them. And so you were the more patient one, you were the smarter one in the battle, and you would be able to pick up that kill instead of the other person. So tip number 4, don't be afraid to disengage. Always be the smarter player. Know when you're about to lose and just fall back a little bit, regain yourself, and you'll be able to pick up the kill. Tip number 5, this goes again, with the other side of don't be afraid to disengage, don't rush things. So don't be that person where if you're fighting someone and they back off, unless they're really weak and you know no one else is going to be behind that wall, don't always rush in and try to get that kill. A lot of times you'll rush in and there'll be like 3 other teammates back there and you'll just get annihilated, and you just got yourself an extra death you didn't really necessarily need. I'm not saying if they're, you know, just a sliver of the health left and they're right around the corner, you can throw a grenade back there, you can just pop back there really quick and shoot them, but know when it's not okay to just rush in. Sometimes when you just stop thinking and stop being smart with it, you just start rushing in, stop thinking about what you're going to turn the corner to, stop thinking about what gun you should have out, and then really that's the times when you start just piling on the deaths and you're really not getting a kill, is not helping your team with any objectives. So don't rush in, don't play mindlessly if your aim is to be competitive and to be really good at this game. You really need to be thinking. You need to be thinking about what engagements you're going to get in. You need to be thinking about where you're going, being able to get that first shot on someone. So pull it back, take it a little slower, and don't rush into things. Tip number 5, don't rush into things. Tip number 6, know your class setup for the map and for your playstyle. So if you really like only short range engagements, now in Destiny 2 you can have your primary and your secondary, which I think now is called your energy weapon, as they can become so versatile now. You can have a hand cannon for close range in your first class or first weapon spot. In your second weapon spot, you can have a scout rifle for longer range things. So that really allows you to be able to craft your class setup to the best of your abilities, or to the best of the types of engagements you're going to face. So if you're in a longer ranged map, you know, you might want to have an auto rifle in your first and a scout rifle in your second, or switch those two around, doesn't really matter, because you're not always going to be in really short range fights where you'd have a sidearm in. Flip that around, if you're on a really small map, you might not want to have a scout rifle unless you are a scout rifle enthusiast, but you might want to have a auto rifle and a sidearm. So that way you got really good mid-range to short range attack power with the auto rifle, and just really good short range power with that sidearm. So know your class setup. You can tailor it to what you specifically prefer. So for example, I really like more longer range engagements. I would prefer auto rifle and pulse or scout rifles. So that way I like to distance myself from enemies. It gives me a lot of time to back up if I'm in a situation I don't like, regroup with teammates, and I just excel better with longer range things. So I usually don't run a sidearm. I'll occasionally run a hand cannon when I find one that's really good, but I tailor my class to my specialties. So you want to do that too. Or if you just want to go for an all-around short range, long range setup, that's also really good too. So that way you can switch your weapons around depending on where you are in the map and what engagements you're going to get into. So tip number 6, make sure you have a good class setup that fits your needs or fits the needs of the map that you're playing on. The last tip I'm going to give is going to be play the meta that Destiny is in right now. This might be something that might annoy some people. So in all first-person shooter games, there's always a gun or a type of gun that just usually exceeds other guns, whether it be Call of Duty, Overwatch, Battlefield, Overwatch being specific characters, but there's always some sort of character that, it just has a little bit, or weapon that just has a little bit of edge over the others at the moment. So in Destiny, they do a good job of balancing out these weapons, but sometimes, there's just some sort of weapon that comes along at a certain time in the game that is just doing really good against all the other ones, whether it be hand cannons, certain assault rifle, scout rifles. They're just doing a lot better. So if your main goal is to be the best player there and to get the kills, let your team win, you're gonna want to try to play with this style. So I'm not saying if you are horrible with hand cannons, and a lot of people are using hand cannons, but you do better with a scout rifle anyway, go ahead and use that scout rifle, obviously. But if you just keep getting killed by this scout rifle, there's no shame in going and using that scout rifle in the Crucible if that's going to get you the most kills. It's something that a lot of people don't like, but you know, if you're trying to be the best, you want to get those kills, you want to do the best that you can to help your team win. It's just something that you got to do sometimes. So it's not always the best thing that people like, but it's a necessity. Okay, so those are my 7 tips on how to instantly get better at PvP. If you like them, like the video, comment if you have any questions or suggestions that you think I would like to do. And yeah, so I hope you liked the video and it helped you at all with your Destiny skills. Thank you.